Welcome all to the today open discussion within the RTU Institute of Energy System and Environment video podcast series called Sustainable Worlds. Today we are going to talk and discuss about a really interesting topic, understanding the role of the life cycle assessment and ecolabelling to lower products' environmental footprint by implementing circular economy perspective. We would like today to go through a really fruitful and exciting discussion, of course, together with our guest, who I would like to introduce briefly. So on my left, I would like to introduce my colleague, Assistant Professor Maksims Feofilovs from RTU Institute of Energy Systems and Environment, and close to him, we have always from the same institute, our PhD student, Riccardo Paoli. But let's start to identify a bit the core of the today discussion in order to start to introduce the question that will involve all our guests. So basically nowadays, consumers are more aware about product sustainability as well as a circular aspect connected to product. Nevertheless, from a producer or company perspective, implementing a substantial environmental strategy is quite complex and time and cost demanding. Nevertheless, there is an evidence that there is a need to guide consumer to have a more conscious selection of more sustainable products or let's call green products. But as you understand, in order to provide a clear and consistent message to consumer, we need from one side consistent standards or framework which could clearly assess the overall environmental performance of the product, and on the other side we need the tool which can quantify, of course, this environmental performance, and exactly I'm referring to the tool of the life cycle assessment. So based on my background, I would like now to warming up with my first question to my colleague Maksims. So Maksims, you have been working since many years in the field of life cycle assessment, so-called LCA, and as well LCA modeling. But could you briefly explain what LCA means for and how we can link the methodology of LCA to the circular economic concept?
Yes, thank you, Francesco. So the LCA, as you said, is a methodology for assessing environmental impacts, and the specifics of this methodology is that it allows to look at the impacts within all stages of the product's life cycle, considering the raw material extraction, the transportation to the factory, the production at the factory, transportation to consumer, the use stage, and the disposal stage of the product. Of course, this methodology is not limited to assessing only products. It can be used for assessing also the services or even companies or organizations. Yes, and the methodology covers different environmental impacts across all of the life stages, which I just mentioned, and for that reason, it is often referred as environmental footprint of the product, or also sometimes we hear carbon footprint when the carbon emissions are calculated. Yeah, and the reasons why it is necessary to apply this methodology are that this methodology allows to understand better what impacts lie behind the curtain of our favorite product or service, looking more into the phases of the product that are not seen for users of these products on daily basis. So we can see if there are some major impacts occurring in the raw material extraction for our selected product or at the disposal phase. The methodology also allows to understand if there are burden transfers between these stages or between environmental impacts if we would like to select an alternative product and compare it with our first option. So this also partly links the selected LCA assessment approach to circular economy concept in a way that the raw material extraction can be compared to alternative options such as the use of recycled materials for product production, or the same can be made at the disposal of the product. We can compare different scenarios for end of life of the product. We can see what would be the benefits of the recycling of the product. And in this way, the LCA fully contributes to evaluation of the product from perspective of circular economy.
Yes, thank you very much for your clarification. I think that you gave us a really nice warming up how to start this discussion, and you touched really many key words, I would say, that will be also part of the core of the today podcast. But I would like now to go to Riccardo. And Riccardo, you are a PhD student in RTU VASSI Institute, and I would like to take inspiration from Maksim. He mentioned actually that there is as let's say key concept somehow highlighting the importance of the use of LCA tool addressed to the environmental footprint of product. Could you explain from your let's say point of view how we can link this concept of environmental footprint to what is now growing as attention in connection to the product ecolabelling framework? Could you clarify this link?
Yes, thank you, Francesco, for the question. I think that we can start with asking what is an ecolabel. An ecolabel is like a marks placed on products, packaging, but also in the e-products for the e-commerce that can help the customers and also the governments to understand what are the environmental performance of this product, and in a easy way to say how environmental friendly is this product. Also, ecolabels can be owned by governments, by non-profit environmental organization, but also by single private companies. There are different types of ecolabelling, 3 types especially. I want to focus on the third one, that is that one that included the EPD. EPD stands for Environmental Product Declaration, and EPD is defined by the International Organization of Standardization as a declaration that can quantify the environmental impact of a product, and then can also permit the comparison with other products with the same function. So it's important to say that the EPD is a methodology based on the LCA, as Maksim explained before, of a product. The EPDs are primarily intended as a business-to-business transaction, but also they can be really useful for customers to understand what are the environmental impact of a product, but also from the company themselves, because they can understand which are their sustainability goals and how far are going with that. For our customers, the EPD are easy to find on the international EPD system database, but also there are the national EPD database. Like, for example, for the Nordic country, there is the EPD Norge database. Also, for the customers, it's easy to find the EPD description because they are all divided per product and their service and scopes.
Thank you, Riccardo. Really clear explanation, and as well you touch really key points and really important focus that we will also address in the second part of our discussion. And actually, based on what just Riccardo mentioned about EPD, Maksims, I know that also in your RTU VASSI group of LCA, you are performing and finalizing during the last years several EPD. Could you maybe give us an overview, or just tell from your perspective something more about the latest trends in growing the attention in EPD and the rise of awareness about products' environmental footprint, both, let's say, from companies' side and as well from consumer perspective?
Yes. Thank you for the question. This is actually a very interesting question on what are the latest trends, because EPDs have been around for quite a time already, but the bloom of EPD started only recently. And I would say, in my opinion, it is directly linked to the European Commission's Green Deal perspective, which made a lot of countries think on how they can promote more environmental friendly product use in different sectors. And so we see now different types of regulatory frameworks in European countries blooming up with the requirements for the EPDs of the products in different procurements, in different regulations for building requirements. This made the EPD bloom in latest years, and also for Latvia, this tendency for EPDs, we see that it's increasing. If we had only, let's say, few EPDs 3 years ago, in a year we developed only a few of them, then already this year we have almost close to 20 EPDs. The EPDs are mainly developed now for the construction sector. It's not just in Latvia, but also in all Europe, and I would say even in all world. The construction sector is where the EPDs are applied the most, because the construction sector is known well for a big carbon footprint behind the buildings, not just in the use phase of the buildings, but also behind the materials. And of course, the aim is to decrease this carbon footprint. So we see mainly EPDs now blooming up for local construction product production. And I would say the ones that are the most concerned are the products that are used for fundamental parts of the buildings, like concrete or steel, sometimes wood, and etc. Yeah, so That's
Yeah,
how
thank
it
you,
looks for now.
thank you very much, Maxim, for your really informative answer. And I would like to stress some key aspect. Actually, he mentioned about the Green Deal. So we have seen how the Green Deal can be the umbrella which can boost EPD and as well promoting sustainability of product. But in this case, we can see also, and we can say that in this term, eco-design can of course promote the targets which are of course identify and set in the Green Deal. So this is quite an important key aspect to highlight during also this discussion. But let's continue with some more interesting aspect and maybe consideration about the topic of today. And during our discussion, several times we somehow we try to rely the concept of a circular economy as a main driver promoting the environmental performance or improving the environmental footprint of a product. So I would like to come back now to Riccardo. And Riccardo, you are a scientist, you are a researcher. And from your perspective, somehow, how do you think now the product design somehow can change as well in connection to the circular economy and consequently to the boost of the EPD within the latest period?
Yes, thank you, Francesco, again. And I think that for describing how now the product design is changing in the way of the circular economy, the best way is to explain my real experience as a EPD maker or a LCA modeler, because since I make EPDs almost every day, I deal with the companies and I know how they are working, especially because I see their plans, I see their production plans, and also knowing, because for the EPD, fundamental part is know about the raw materials that enter for the production of the product. So I see that a lot of companies now are starting to try to use as much recycled product as raw material in input they can. And as Maxim said, EPD is really important nowadays for the construction buildings part. For example, I made an EPDs for a beam of steels, and I've seen that there they use a really big amount of scrap steel as input, because they are trying to reduce the raw material and using the most recycling part that they can. And also, even if this possibility is not is difficult to obtain, because maybe some companies are producing some products that are not fitting well with the recycling material as input, they try to compensate in another way. They maybe install solar plant in their factories to use green energy and produce on site. Although also, even if this is not possible, they try to use only the green energy from the national grid. So I see that there's really an improving and a looking forward for this circular economy idea and sustainability.
Thank you very much, Riccardo. We have seen how somehow we had like a voice from real experience on how really to strengthening the circularity of product within a company. So I think that the experience from Riccardo is really valuable, also to have a real understanding how we can more efficiently recycle or reusing product within a product life cycle. So now I would like to move ahead as well in our discussion, and we use many keywords and sometimes most of them, they were really similar during our discussion. I would say that we have like a zoo of somehow really close to each other words like environmental and carbon footprint, environmental performances. We of course mentioned life cycle assessment. We did not mention yet, but maybe also Maxim will say about the product environmental footprint. We had the EPD, the environmental product declaration, And now I start to be a bit confused, because somehow all these words seems really similar, and somehow maybe our listeners, they would like to know a bit more about such a keywords, and eventually as well about the regulatory frameworks which are guiding somehow the definition of the quantitative tools and approach to go through all of them. So please, Maxim, could you a bit clarify such aspect from your expertise?
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Francesco. First of all, I completely agree with you. It's easy to get lost, not just between the keywords, but between different methodologies. And also, there are a lot of regulatory frameworks that need to be followed, even within one specific methodology. So I will try briefly to give an overview on how I see these regulatory frameworks from my perspective. And what are the topical things right now. So let's start with the basic LCA framework, which is under the ISO standard 14040, known as Environmental Management Life Cycle Assessment Principles and Framework. It gives a general overview of the LCA as a methodology. And then there's another LCA framework, ISO 14044, which gives a more in-depth description on the requirements and guidelines for conducting an LCA study, including the goal and scope definition, life cycle inventory, assessment phase, and the results interpretation, critical review, and how to handle these results. But this is only for the LCA itself. Then there are coming specific regulatory frameworks which are fulfilled in case you would like to, for example, develop a carbon footprint, which is under the ISO 14067. As for Ecolabelling Type 3 Environmental Product Declaration, it is ISO 14025. For environmental product declaration development, there are also more specific standards based on the product types which you're developing the environmental product declaration for. So, for example, there's a EN standard 15084, which is about sustainability of constructions, and this standard gives guidelines how to develop an EPD for construction products. But then there are even more in-depth rules, specific product category rules, according to which these EPDs are developed even more in-depth. So as you see, there are the different regulatory frameworks, and now European Commission tries to combine them into a general framework called product environmental footprint, and it's currently being developed. So we will see how it comes out, if it allows to simplify all of this, all of these frameworks coming into one.
Yeah, thank you. I think that you really pointed out clearly each key point.
Yeah, Francesco,
yes,
and can I
yes.
ask you a question from your perspective? What do you think? Why a company should make an EPD or product environmental footprint, and why it's important?
Thank you, Maksims. Actually, this question would be better to be asked to, let's say, from private companies, which are maybe mostly dealing with EPD. But anyway, I could bring my perspective on this question. I think that the first reason why a company should go for EPD for the product that is under developing is mostly to have a measure, a quantitative measure of the impact of the product over the whole life cycle. This is, of course, what also we mentioned in all our previous discussion, but the measure, it's really key in order to understand which are the criticalities within the whole life cycle of the product that can be improved and can be eventually minimized to, of course, enhance a higher sustainability or a higher circularity during the product design. So I would say that the first reason is about a quantitative perspective. The second is, of course, related to always quantitative, but I would say that is moving a bit more on the commercial side of the product, because somehow by measuring, we can provide consumers the possibility to compare. So by measuring, we can create benchmarks in order to be to give the company a higher competitiveness in the market. And the third is, of course, fully related to a commercial aspect. That, of course, having an EPD, we create a differentiation of the product that the company is producing in the market. And as well, there are bonuses in case, mostly for building material, I would say, that product is going to be to participate for public or private procurement. So I would say that this perspective, which relate mostly to the development of a product and sustainability of a product at a larger scale, is, I would say, the third point why a company should make an EPD. Thank you, Maxim, for asking me
Thank you for answering
this question. I would say that now we can going to the closure of our discussion. So I would like now to have a sort of wrap up or a kind of sum up of all the aspects which we clearly presented to our listeners. And I would like to ask my guest, and I will also give my point of view. I would like to please ask them to give a take-home message about the today topic of this video podcast about the role of ecolabelling and LCA-based assessment method to reduce the pressure in the environment. So, Maksims, Riccardo, you have 1 minute each to highlight this aspect.
Yes. I would like to say that the European Commission actually wrote that they acknowledge the LCA as the best currently available methodology for assessing environmental footprints of the product in terms of full life cycle. And this means that this methodology is here to stay, and I think everyone should start, everyone involved into business, in production business, should start maybe thinking on developing an EPD or another type of label based on this methodology.
Thank you really much, Maxim. So, Riccardo, yes, please. Thank you. I think that an eco label is fundamental and really important for that, because it permits to transform the numbers that I see every day from the results that are really maybe complex for not an expertise, but they permit to transform these numbers in an easy way for a customer to see and to choose which is the best product on the environmental friendly and on the environmental point of view.
Thank you, Riccardo. Actually, I take a note, and actually my first point was exactly similar, the one of Riccardo. So basically, we need to disseminate the clear message of what does it mean a green or sustainable product in a consistent and standardized way. And this is what exactly ecolabelling is doing. And as Maxi said as well, we try to have even at the EU level, a homogenization of this compound through this what is called PEF. Then I would say that I think that in the future we should consider almost mandatory from all producer of product to have or EPD or PEF during the development of the production of the product. This is, of course, to strengthening the role of both eco-design and circular economy, that at the design stage, it gives a higher impact in terms of improvement of sustainability. And then I would say to include we as academy members to have a key role as interface exactly between the private company and the consumer, somehow to provide our expertise as a support to harmonize, of course, this exchange of information. And with this last comment, I hope that you enjoy this discussion. I would like to thank again my guest for the real nice contribution to the today talk. And of course, I would like to thank you for listening us to this really interesting topic of today. And of course, please don't miss the next episode of video podcast Sustainable Wars. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.